Our wheat marketing analyst this week is North Dakota State Extension economist Frayne Olson. We talked with Frayne on Thursday morning after the USDA released its outlook for U.S. agricultural trade. One of the components in the report is the destination for U.S. exports. While China sits at the top, Frayne thought numbers 2 and 3 might be a surprise to some.
The report out this morning talks about all agricultural imports and exports. And when we start tracking where do we sell our agricultural products in aggregate, China is the largest destination, and again, I'm counting dollars here. So where do we sell most of our dollar volume? The number 2 and number 3 destinations, again, are a bit surprising to people. Number 2 is Canada, and number 3 is Mexico. So when we look at and compare the forecast from previous reports versus the one that came out this morning, China was relatively stable, Canada was stable, but there is expectations for increased export volume in a dollar sense into Mexico. And again, part of that is a result of the extreme dry conditions they've had in their major growing regions. So the expectation is we'll be able to sell a little bit more corn and probably some beans into Mexico.
Okay, so as you look at those 3, China, Canada, Mexico, the USDA noted that the problems were, I think, obviously going to be or could be oil shortages or stoppages, and then problems in the Eurozone. So as you look at those 3 destinations, how do those problems, or how could those problems impact those 3?
Well, obviously the world situation is very volatile right now. There's some real concerns about what's happening in the Middle East and some of the international trade implications for that. When we look at again, our major export destinations, the North Africa region and in particular parts of the Middle East become very large destinations for our winter wheat products. So we've got to understand that the classes of wheat tend to be a little bit different in their export destinations. The spring wheats tend to go into the Pacific Rim areas, and the winter wheats, in particular hard red winter wheat, goes into the North Africa and Middle East. And so the geopolitical concerns in that region are something we really need to watch, especially for the winter wheat markets.
And is there, when you talk about that, when you talk about the different classes of wheat going into where the spring is going, where the winter is going, so how does that play out here at home then, Frayne, the competition between U.S. and what we're seeing across there?
Right, and we've talked about this in the past, that the export competition and how aggressive that Black Sea region has been, in particular in Russia. And what we're seeing now is that some of that export volume is starting to drop off. And there's potentially 2 reasons for that. One is the exportable stocks out of Russia as well as Ukraine are starting to dwindle. They've already been extremely aggressive, and one of the reasons we've had some problems in the winter wheat markets is because of their aggressive sales proposals. So we are seeing some cutbacks. There's also now concerns about their major production regions, especially for winter wheat, having extremely cold temperatures, potential for winter kill, and what do we think is going to happen for their production next year. And we keep oscillating back and forth between rumors of some export bans or at least an increase in export taxes to try and slow the pace of exports out of that region versus increased or continued sales. And again, the major destinations for some of those sales out of the Black Sea region has been North Africa and parts of the Middle East. So that's putting tremendous pressure on the winter wheat complex versus spring wheats, which again tend to go more into the Asian markets.
Yeah, those export concerns there, it seems like they change from day to day. Okay, we've covered a lot of things here, but essentially as we go forward for the next month, what are you seeing, and obviously there are a lot of different structures here, but pricing, what are you seeing in pricing here at home?
Well, right now we're kind of in the winter doldrums, if you will. We're not having a huge amount of new supply information. We are going to be interested, of course, as we move forward in time to watch what happens with not only as we break dormancy here in the U.S., but more importantly what happens in the Black Sea region and how much winter kill damage we have. Short term, the 2 things we'll really continue to watch very closely, of course, is the geopolitical concerns in the Middle East. And if that becomes a big concern, what's going to happen to exports and export pace? And again, the other one that is the Eurozone and the financial problems that are going on there. So right now the market is really focused on outside of agricultural issues.